The old man looked at me in that way that said, I would soon doubt what I was saying.
This is I Don't Even Own a Television, God's Debris.
1, 2, 3. There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. Cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
Welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television, a podcast about bad books. I'm J.W. Friedman.
I'm Chris Collision, and when what's becoming a trend, we have a turbo special guest. Introduce and justify yourself.
Hi, my name is Lauren O'Neill. I'm a writer and editor, and I co-host the podcast Sunday School Dropouts, where I, an ex-Christian, and my boyfriend, a non-believing sort of Jew, read all the way through the Bible for the first time.
Wow.
And including a robo-generated Bible.
Including a robo-generated fake Bible passage that Jay was on. He was also on the Deuteronomy episode. He was our first full episode guest.
Wow.
But yeah, it's great to have you here, especially for this, because...
Speaking of robo-generated Bibles.
Yeah. Holy shit. Okay, so...
Oh, also I want to say I have a cold, so my voice isn't at 100%.
Yeah.
So if I squeak, that's why.
Yeah, it's not because you're so excited about the concepts of
I'm
God's
not
Debris.
choking up about Dilbert.
Dilbert, you say? What has Dilbert to do with this book, I might wonder?
What does Dilbert have to do with this book, and why are we talking about it? And the answer is, a couple episodes ago, I said we were going to have to do something about this fucking guy, I believe I referred to him as, Scott Adams. And I don't normally like to do things for the show that I know are going to make me angry, and I swear I didn't know this was going to make me angry.
Oh my God. I like Jay and I were texting about this. I have not been this angry reading a book since Money, Pizza, Respect. Like, this book made me furious. I took an angry nap reading this book.
I tried to take notes in the margins, and sometimes I would literally just scribble.
Yeah.
I would just wouldn't even write letters.
Yeah. I want to see your book because I'm guessing it's 80% scribbles or just the word no.
Yeah, I did find by the end it's all caps all the time.
I literally have a note here that just says, "Oh no." Yeah, that's a common experience when reading this book because, well, should we even try to explain it or should we just do the plot in 60?
Well, let's do Dilbert's explanation of it, or excuse me, Dilbert Guy's explanation of it, and then get
Dr. Dilbert Stein.
Yes, and then get the take of a mind that has not descended completely into madness on what this book might be about.
Yeah, we haven't. I don't think we've made it explicitly clear. This is a book written by Scott Adams, who is the creator of Dilbert and well-known internet loudmouth, who has lots of opinions about things that he does not seem to understand in the slightest.
Especially women.
Yeah. He
we'll
was
get to
on that
that
women are not funny bandwagon at one point, I believe, in addition to a bunch of other stuff.
As this book points out, women be different than men.
Sometimes they're shopping. And that's about the level of analysis you're going to get
not
from here.
even that, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. But I think it's worth noting that this book opens up with one of the most hilarious introductions I've ever read in any book ever. Can we just talk about the first two sentences? Because I feel like there's 20 minutes just in this first two sentences of the introduction.
Can we?
Let's do that before we even think about plot in 60 seconds. The first thing you read when you open this book is...
This what now?
This book-like object. That phrase has never been more true.
I have the hard copy. It's kind of a pamphlet. It's very small.
It looks like maybe something...
The print is very big.
Yeah, and the chapters are without exception between 2 and 5 pages long.
Yeah.
It's something Scientologists might try to sell to you on the street in L.A.
I don't want to bang this drum too hard, but the difference between this and a pamphlet that would be introduced at your competency hearing is just the fact that this guy was successful enough to get somebody else to publish it for him.
That's a very good point. So the first thing when you open this pamphlet/book-like object that you'll encounter under the header introduction is, this is not a Dilbert book. It contains no humor. So... First of all, we're making some pretty huge assumptions here.
And keep that in mind, dear listener. Making some pretty huge assumptions is pretty much the project of this book.
That's true.
But yeah, there's something... what is it? There's something that's bugging me about that juxtaposition of two sentences. What can somebody help me out
They
here?
have nothing to do with each other. They're non sequiturs.
It's not. It's the jumbo shrimp kind of. Well, it's the opposite of that, right?
Is there some
Yeah.
underlying belief that a Dilbert book would contain humor?
Which,
Because that
no.
doesn't sound right to
No.
me.
I honestly,
Both of those sentences mean the same thing.
I am like completely honest when I say this, that this is funnier than Dilbert.
That's probably true.
It's like, I mean, it doesn't mean to be, but it is.
I don't disagree. I mean, I except that it's also more infuriating
Yes, that's
than
true,
Dilbert.
too.
And stop it. Like, it's more infuriating than Dilbert.
It's a high hurdle.
Like, that's a high hurdle. So I want to jump straight to the last sentence of the introduction, and then we can like kind of dive in. 'Cause
Okay.
Every sentence of the introduction is a pearl, and
Yes.
by that I mean I am a clam, and it is a piece of sand being
It is
poked into my
irritating
most
me.
sensitive bits. The last sentence of this is, for maximum enjoyment, share God's debris with a smart friend, and then discuss it while enjoying a tasty beverage.
Fuck off.
Okay, so first off, that's exactly what we're doing here. And like, I don't want to offend you guys, but I was not enjoying myself in any way while reading this.
Well, maybe the maximum enjoyment has yet to occur. We'll find out soon.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even think you have to go that far in the introduction to continue the train of hilarity, because
Right.
the second paragraph starts with God's debris doesn't fit into normal publishing cubbyholes. There is even disagreement about whether this material is fiction or nonfiction.
I contend that it is fiction because the characters don't exist, which is an interesting definition of fiction.
Yes.
Especially if you don't really read much fiction or anything else. Some people contend that it is nonfiction because the opinions and philosophies of the characters might have lasting impact on the reader.
Now, that's
Now, this
definitely
is-
something you never find in fiction. Like,
This-
no one has ever read like a novel
Right.
and then like had it impact
Or
them.
for example, my favorite piece of fiction, the Holy Bible.
You're just going to keep doing this, aren't you?
I'm never going to not do that. But I do really want to say, I want to call out this usage of some people, which we might call the Trumpian some people, which means I.
Scott Adams is a noted Trumpian, so yeah.
But it's always this kind of, like, some people think I should
Right,
enjoy
yes.
a hamburger sandwich with a French fried potatoes garnish.
Before we go any further, I think it's important to warn our listeners.
Yeah, this is really important.
Because Scott Adams takes the time to warn people as well. This episode is not suitable for those under the age of 14, because although it contains no sexual content and no offensive languages, the ideas expressed by the characters are inappropriate for young minds.
Yeah.
The target audience for God's Debris, who might that be?
23-year-olds?
Yes, 23-year-olds who, quote unquote, enjoy having their brains spun around inside their skulls.
Yeah, so if you're a young listener, if you're under 14, please turn it off right now or your mind will get blown.
Yeah.
Possibly irreparably.
It's true. I mean, first of all, as the man says himself, the story's central character has a view about God that you've probably never heard before. And this is only true if you've never known anyone who took acid.
Oh,
or
Jesus.
if you've never heard of like the concept of God before. Like if you're an alien from Mars,
Which
then
Scott Adams might be.
you definitely have not been exposed to these concepts before.
Yeah, or if you've lived a truly charmed life and never knew someone circa 14 to 17 who decided, having never read any Bible, to debunk the Bible using rigorous logic.
Yes.
Then this book might be unfamiliar to you. However, if you're like me and used to get stuck on the bus next to that guy,
I was just
or
gonna
in
say.
fact be that guy, this will all be extraordinarily
I
familiar
was like,
to you.
this episode is prime territory for a collision on the bus in Denver next to a jean jacket guy story.
God.
Because, yeah, I feel like that's a lot of these philosophies for sure. This is totally like, well, let's take a step back. Let's do a plot in 60 seconds.
Nobody knows if you win it or not. You got 60 seconds to give them the plot. Plot is 60 seconds.
Well, Well, first, I mean, it doesn't really have a plot. Okay, I'll say before I do the plot in 60 seconds, I want to say it doesn't really have a plot. It's kind of just like a really, really stupid Socratic dialogue where one character explains things to another character. But to the extent that there is a plot, it is this. A delivery guy delivers a package to an old man who explains the nature of the universe to him, which is that the Big Bang was God blowing himself up to see if he could, and the universe is made of God's debris, which consists of two things. One, the fundamental building blocks of matter, and two, probability. Humans are supposed to reassemble God by getting advanced enough to build a really super powerful internet, which will be essentially an infinitely intelligent neural network, i.e. God. The old man reveals he's the only fifth-level human, or avatar, and after teaching the delivery guy basic social etiquette, he passes the mantle of avatar on to him. And the book ends with the new avatar reaching old age and passing the title on to the next delivery guy, hinting that he ended something called the religion war and achieved world peace.
And after that, a dog with a flat top comes in and talks about how the copier machine is broken. No, that is perfect. That's exactly what happens here. But yes, Socratic dialogue, right on the nose. Because this is literally a character who is one of the most obvious author proxies I think we've encountered since we've started doing this show.
And we're talking about the fifth level avatar is the author proxy.
Yeah, the author proxy is literally a character who, quote unquote, knows everything in the world. So that should give you a good point of where this is coming from.
Let's return to the introduction for a moment. The central character in God's Debris knows
Scott
everything. Literally everything. This presented a challenge to me as a writer. When you consider all the things that can be known, I don't know much. My solution, and who gives a fuck? Shut up.
Yeah.
Actually, I do want to say that. My solution was to create smart-sounding answers using the skeptic's creed. The simplest explanation is usually right. Now, let's take this in mind and then talk about his explanation of what time is.
Oh, jeez. Yes. Oh, you mean the part where he spends about 20 pages talking about how Einstein is totally an idiot?
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot.
40 pages after that, he's like, can't argue with Einstein, as Einstein proved, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so his explanation of time, and I didn't highlight this, so you guys are going to have to keep me honest, is there is no such thing as time because Zeno's paradox is not actually solvable and doesn't actually work. So what time is a discontinuous series of jumps in probability caused by God nuggets coming too close to each other and creating discontinuity.
It's not caused by that. That's just incidental to it. It makes even less sense than what you just said.
By the way, I do have 35 cents to help you get the bus.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so the difference between, I already made a joke about the difference between this and a pamphlet introduced at your competency hearing, but the difference between this and Time Cube or the many, books by schizophrenic people that jerks ask us to do on this show.
Self-published works, yes.
Yeah. The difference is that Scott Adams still had enough on the ball to separate it out and make it a two-character thing instead of just one giant manifesto. Because you could lose the framing device and you could lose all the lines that the delivery boy has with nothing, and you wouldn't notice.
And you know what you would end up with?
A horrifying manifesto.
A Dr. Bronner soap label.
Yeah, crossed with Time Cube.
Yeah. Because holy shit. Anyway, so that is what the book, I guess, is about. So I think we need to try to do some high points and low points here. This might be tricky.
High points are high and low points are low. High points, low points, get ready to go.
Okay, I have some genuine high points.
Excellent.
Should I start?
Yeah, go for it.
So, one high point is that the book is surprisingly, if perhaps accidentally, body positive.
Really?
There's this one chapter about fat people, and I assumed that Scott Adams would be like, oh, fat people are lazy and they need to have more willpower or whatever. But actually he says that free will is a lie, so being fat is okay.
Yeah, basically like what he says is willpower is completely incidental because, I may just feel hungrier than you do.
Yeah, like some people
Yeah.
are hungrier than others, so they eat more.
Yeah.
So
And they stop eating when they don't want to eat anymore, and that's willpower too. And you're actually right. I didn't parse it as that way because I was already so furious that I was swearing at the book about everything.
I just, when we got to that topic, I was expecting to read something really like gross, and then I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense, but at least he's like not saying that fat people are bad.
Yeah. No, it could have been way worse for sure. I guess I'll do the world's most obvious high point. 148 pages.
Woo!
Of really large type.
Oh my God. And yeah, so I'm a slow ass reader, and I think I probably spent about an hour and a half reading this.
I read most of this at a bar while waiting for my friends to arrive. So, hooray. So thank you for at least not drawing out your horrible like Socratic metaphor for more than 148 pages. By the end I was skimming,
Yep.
but it's still, this is a book with a whole chapter about how science is wrong.
Yeah.
And he
It
manages
has several whole chapters about how science is wrong.
That's true. But he manages to still keep it terse and short, and I appreciated that he at least wasn't wasting my time with his stupid ideas.
Only wasting a small amount of your time.
Yeah, just a
Right.
small amount of it.
Yeah, although, it also wasted something like $8 of my money.
For you, I checked this out from the library digitally specifically because I was like, I am not going to give Scott Adams my money for this book, and I still feel so righteous about that decision.
I feel compromised and dirty.
I feel dirty, for
Yeah.
having bought it.
Did you have to buy this from a human being, or did you order it?
Oh, I
online?
ordered it.
Okay, 'Cause I love stories of people buying the books in person and being like, yes, I want this philosophy book by the Dilbert Guy.
I did read it on the bus with like the cover like folded all the way back so nobody could see what it was.
But the problem is then there's still these giant chapter headers that say like, where is free will located? Free will located in
physics of god dust.
Yeah, okay,
use less than 2 cosmetics per day and enjoy all one soap, natural purity, genuine belief.
There is probably the longest chapter is devoted to like a debunking of the idea of soul that revolves around the following, like, impossible to answer question. Oh, if you have a soul, where is it in your body, huh?
And everyone knows the soul resides in the dancing part of your body.
The liver.
Yeah.
Duh.
Except the Jewish soul. That's all in the larynx.
Whoa.
I'm just saying.
Could you please stop being so anti-Semitic?
Sorry.
I was actually a
This
little
is a
surprised
family podcast.
that there wasn't a fucking chapter in this called like Jews, the hidden problem, like something like that.
Yeah, something. This book at any point veers
High
very
point.
close to.
There was no chapter called Jews the Hidden Problem.
This veers very close to like Chick Tract with no illustrations at
Yeah.
times. So yeah,
but
without the religious agenda. No, Time Cube. You keep saying Time Cube. That is the best reference.
Well, and I was going to say, if it were illustrated, we know it wouldn't be illustrated as well as Chick Tracts because we all know what Dilbert was.
That's true.
Okay, so it's time for my high point. My high point is the following exchange. I asked him if he ever played a game called foosball. It's that little table game where you use handles connected to little soccer players and try to cook a wooden ball into the other guy's goal. His face said that he didn't need to know the details of foosball table design. Like, that was by far the best part of the book for me.
Yeah, I'm sure his face looked mostly how my face looked the entire time I was reading this book. And he was explaining.
Contorted in rage?
Yeah. And he was explaining things to me like gravity and then being like, by the way, that's wrong.
Like, yeah, this entire book just, I think, elicits a physical and mental image of, that. And I'm guessing that Scott Adams get this a lot when he's talking, is somebody doing the, like, hand in a circle, wrap it up motion.
Yeah, for an 148-page book, like, the last 50 pages feel very superfluous because he's just kind of retreading the same ground over and over
the
again.
last 50 pages are the best.
Yeah, but we've gone way off. Well, you still need a high point.
I just gave my high point. It was foosball, but yeah, the whole book is like, remember when I disproved God? Let's disprove God some more.
Here's a chapter called. Okay, so yeah, this is my second. I guess this will be my low point. My first low point.
Yep.
It's these giant chapter headers that are all very, very intended to be almost like clickbait headlines, and they say things like, one of my favorites, reincarnation, UFOs, and God. So, and then none of the chapters are ever as interesting as those headers make you think they're going to be. So, because it always just turns into some people believe some things because they don't believe in their free will, and other people believe in other things because they're smart like Scott Adams, and, they just put time into thinking about shit and drawing dog cartoons. So, yeah. And, so the chapter headers are a big disappointment. They're always a letdown. There's a chapter called God's Motivation. You don't know what God's motivation is by the end of that chapter.
Well, you do know it just is completely wild.
Yeah, that's
just...
Actually, what was God's motivation?
His motivation was he wanted to see if he could blow himself up.
Oh, yeah. Just wanted to see if he could.
Like, it goes on and on about it. It's like, God doesn't have human emotions. Like, you can't guess what God wants or whatever. Like, he doesn't feel angry. He doesn't feel love like humans do. However, he does feel the need to
blow himself up
to see if he can do it, because it's a thought experiment. Like, can God make a rock so big he himself cannot move it?
We need to talk about that.
That's what God's motivation is. It's totally, first of all, only a human would think of a motivation that's stupid.
That's a very good point.
Second of all,
an omnipotent being would be like, what?
The intellectual level that this book is operating on is literally that paradox. Can God make a burrito so big he can't eat it? Right?
Yes.
Combined with a demonstration that because a person who thinks he's smart, who has studied nothing at all, doesn't off the top of his head know how magnets work, science is bunk. That is the intellectual level of this book.
You had a second point you were getting to, though.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say that not only could only a human think of that motivation, but only a man could think of that motivation.
That's probably very true.
I mean, just because God in this book, apparently his motivation is, or her motivation, is to fire all her guns at once and explode into space.
God is referred to always as a he. It's like, God is nothing like humans. Like, he's not like a big, like, father in the sky, but it's always referred to as a he, and his motivation is like a 14-year-old boy who wants to see if he can blow something up.
It's pushing the envelope, literally. God's motivation is seeing how close to the edge he can run.
Yeah.
If he can take it to the extreme.
Yeah. So like God is basically like a half step away from like making an animated short about Pepe the Frog or something. And,
guys,
yeah.
What if God was one of us?
Just a slob?
Like one of us.
Yeah. That would be weird in a song that inexplicably was a hit.
Same beat as Sex and Candy, I think. It was just
very,
a time
similar.
where people really liked that beat.
She had that nose ring. It was like very groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah, that's true.
The whole song falls apart if you replace God with Bob, though.
Yeah. Well, then it just becomes subgenius propaganda, and that's a different podcast entirely. Lauren, did you have a low point?
I think, well, I mean, obviously there's a lot.
Yeah, the whole thing.
I think a big low point was when he told us that he improved on Einstein's theory of gravity.
Yeah, the guy who drew Dilbert has improved on Einstein's theory of
the
gravity.
guy who could not get dill burritos to fly off the shelves. The guy who has failed at least 2 restaurants. The guy who has an 8-person movie theater in his house that includes 1 seat for him and 1 seat for his life-size Dilbert stand-up.
It's so sad. There's the saddest photo.
Oh my
We'll
God.
put it on the webpage. But yeah.
Yeah, so he says that he's, Einstein wasn't wrong, but he's just improved on Einstein's theory and made it easier to understand.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah.
I think, that's it's once again a great summation of, there's a word that none of us have really brought up that I think says a lot about this book, and it's hubris. And like it is the most just kind of like, as you said earlier, it's the most like white male hubris
Yes,
if possible.
it is.
Where it's like, look, I've read some things written by a lot of people and stuff, but like I also have had some experiences in my life, and I think my experiences, those have a lot more to do with the way the world works than all these other things that I've heard other people say.
That I can project them onto what God would want.
Exactly. It's like, it's almost like the blown out, like, final form of a Final Fantasy villain of that type of thinking, where it's like, well, obviously God thinks that Starbucks is screwing me over on Christmas without putting snowflakes on the cups anymore.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry. Collision, do you have a low point?
I think the low point for me is just that overall assumption that he does know enough to write this book while demonstrating page by page.
Yes.
He doesn't even know how words work. Like, there's at least one chapter that rests on either a refusal to or an incapacity to distinguish between omnipotence and omniscience.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And somewhere in the midst of that very paragraph, we get this following little passage. It felt as if a pulse of energy ran up my spine, compressing my lungs, electrifying my skin, bringing the hairs on the back of my neck to full alert. Like, that metaphor doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's not what the hairs standing up on the back of your neck is. The hairs are not at alert.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to bring something dramatically to full alert, you wouldn't pick to make a successful metaphor hair.
They're guarding for bee-related activity.
Yeah, and it's just like over and over. And like the next paragraph is probably I'm not going to make this my high point, but it's another high point. My brain was taking on too much knowledge. There was overflow, and I needed to shake off the excess.
That is also what happens in the Johnny Mnemonic movie. I just like to point out that's the central plot point of the Johnny Mnemonic movie. And as soon as I read that, I just couldn't stop thinking about Keanu Reeves like having weird like seizures in an elevator. So
because he had too many megs packed into his wetware.
yeah, exactly.
Johnny Mnemonic, the rare movie based on a short story where the movie is less good than the pinball machine based on it.
That's a good point. I want my club sandwich. I just wanted to say I'm not normally super prescriptivist about grammar, but this is, like you said, this is a book that's written by a guy who proposes to know everything, and he says comprised of at least twice in this book, and it drove me insane. That's not what comprised means.
That is
Scott
technically,
Adams.
I can say as a copy editor, that is technically incorrect. Like, he shouldn't use it. However, everyone uses it that way.
I know. But if you're writing a book that's whole point is to be like, look at me, I'm a know-it-all.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would definitely take the time to fix that if I were purporting to know everything.
Yeah.
Or purporting to, like, know enough to basically know what someone who knows everything would say.
So, just real quick, as a copy editor, do you think this book was edited?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
How long do you think it was?
proofread. I don't think it was edited.
Okay.
Like an editor would have said, you're sounding like a crazy person, write a different book.
No, because like an editor wouldn't have that power, right? Like I've edited a lot of really bad books. And my first job out of college was at a vanity publishing press. So it was like
Very much kind of in line with this.
yes. And I couldn't say like this isn't worth, like, just burn this, like I couldn't even say like this concept is wrong, like you're describing gravity incorrectly or whatever. I just had to, like you just have to fix the grammar.
Yeah. You stay very semantic and grammatical, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I would definitely guess that it was edited, although his blog posts are generally grammatically correct. So it probably didn't require like heavy copy editing.
All I'm going to say is that there was a person at Houghton Mifflin or whoever put this out whose job it was to intercept
okay.
this.
It's not
and they
Houghton
failed.
Mifflin though. It's Andrews.
Oh, Andrews McNeil.
Yeah, Andrews McNeil Universal.
Yeah.
So it's just the press that puts out like comic book collections.
Right.
Okay, I see. So
like,
he had
when
so
you-
much clout with them at that point because of the Dilbert comics that maybe this is part of his deal is you've got to put out a couple of my novels.
Yeah.
Sort of like the actors that insist on directing.
Right.
Yeah,
but so
yeah.
especially like they're not equipped. This press is not equipped to like fix like errant philosophy.
That's a
like,
good point.
I'm
They
sorry.
publish comic books.
No, fuck that. Anderson, McAndrews, or whoever it is, should have kicked it back to Jim Davis and been like, cats don't talk.
And why is Dennis the Menace talking about shrunken heads anyway? That's a deep Far Side Collection joke someone will get. Anyway, so, God, we've only been through one high point and one low point, haven't we? 'Cause
That's true.
There's
That's true.
so much tangential bullshit to talk about here. So I guess we're back to low point number 2 for me is that there's so much tangential bullshit to talk about here because this book has no plot Like it is literally like being lectured by the internet for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like by the worst, most strident sphere of the quote unquote skeptic internet that just wants to tell you that you're dumb for believing everything you believe. And it's like about an hour and a half, depending on how fast you read, of that. And then it ends very strangely. But yeah, I just I walked away from this feeling like I had just been lectured by someone very unpleasant, and that was a low point for me.
And as you say, it's very tangential because, like, okay, so it's not like supposed to have a plot, right? It's supposed to be like a lecture, more or less.
Yeah.
But the lecture doesn't build on itself.
Right.
Yeah, there's no
So
structure
you
to
just-
the lecture.
You can just open the book to any random page, and there'll be a topic that Scott Adams wants to like opine about, but it doesn't build off of anything else in the book.
I think, I'm just, you just crystallized it really well, so I'm going to steal it and make it my low point. The low point is that this is basically one of the lecture chautauquas from Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Blown out.
By a guy who hasn't read any books.
Yeah.
At least Robert Pirsig had read some books and tried to think about them. Whereas like Scott Adams doesn't even need to have read them to be debunking them.
Scott Adams has read a lot of books, I'm sure, but they're almost all about how to be successful in X or Y.
Yes.
Because that's
Yes.
very much the
He
type of
hasn't
person
read-
he comes across to me.
Yeah, he has
But
not read any books about the topics he's discussing.
Clearly.
Yeah.
You know, like he really thinks he's blowing minds. Like this is stuff that like Aquinas dismisses in a footnote.
Right.
I mean, one thing I want to mention, and you know, we don't talk about it a lot on this show, but sometimes we do another podcast about a Rush, the band called Rush, and Rush has a song called "Free Will" that literally contains the exact same mind-blowing concept
Yes.
as this 128-page quote-unquote thought experiment, and it's encapsulated in a less than 5-minute radio-friendly prog rock song by a Canadian band in the 1980s. So, Scott, I'm sorry, bud, and I guess that's my low point too. Do you have another one, Lauren?
I've got plenty. Another low point. Well, I really liked. Okay, just it was page 100 in my copy. I just like underlined. It was the worst page in the book. I underlined every single sentence, and it just kept getting worse. Like,
Oh, can I guess real quick?
yeah.
This isn't Women Be Different Than Men, is it?
No, although that's another great low point.
We'll get there soon. Don't worry.
This is like right when he's beginning to. He's explained like the nature of the universe and how we're all God's debris and probability is God. And then he, like, the last 50 pages or so, not even, like 30 pages are about, like, how to live then, like, how you should live according to the rules of probability.
The rules of Scott Adams, more like.
And so he, like, okay, he just spent, like, seriously multiple chapters, like, discussing that, like, gravity isn't real and the moon just, like, pops in and out of existence every moment and, like, is just probably in the same place the next moment. And that's how gravity works. Okay, so he went into so much detail about that, right? And then when he gets to the nature of evil, he just says, evil is any action that might damage people, and that's all. And then he says, and here's how you should live. You should live, like, you should obey probability by, like, wearing your seatbelt. And the way that you know that you're working with probability on your side is just... Usually you know instinctively. So he's like, there's literally more than one chapter on ESP. And then when he gets to, like, how you should live, he's like, you usually know.
Yeah.
It's like-
just whatever. Just do.
Like,
do what feels right,
Einstein
man.
was wrong. I'm smart enough to prove Einstein wrong, but, like, when it comes to, like, living, you usually know.
Yeah.
So compliment sandwich format dictates I need to think of one more high point for this. And I'm going to go right back to the introduction. Sentence number 2, this is not a Dilbert book. Which, much like the Public Image Limited track, This Is Not a Love Song, is entirely defined by what it is not. And my high point is the fact that I didn't have to look at those horrible drawings.
Oh, my God.
Hooray! Thank you.
Boy, Jay's going to be pissed when he sees my pointy-haired boss tattoo.
What if his tie flipped up?
Actually, I'm going to steal from Lauren again. My high point is going to be the thing about the moon. and about gravity.
Okay, can I interrupt for 1 second? Because I just finished, and I've talked about this on the show, I was rereading 1Q84, the Murakami novel about two moons, and one of them disappears a bunch and stuff, and I couldn't help but kind of conflating the two of them, where I'm like, whoa, has Scott Adams been reading Murakami? And then I just started laughing hysterically, because that's never happened and never will happen. I think you'd be lucky to catch him reading, like, I don't know, like Michael Crichton on an airplane, because there's probably fake news in there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, this is my high point is just this incredibly long, like, again, if you just put this on a website by itself,
the website would automatically like put it in like bright green font on a black background.
Yes.
And Google would offer to translate it for you.
Yes.
Like the cursor would turn into like a skull and crossbones.
Yes. And you would be probably involuntarily sent to a place to talk to lots of nice men with butterfly nets.
Yeah.
Because it goes a little something like this.
Hit it.
Einstein's language about bent space and my description of God dust are nothing more than mental models. If they help us deal with our environment, they are useful. My description of gravity is easier to understand than Einstein's model. In that sense, mine is better. I chuckled. I'd never heard anyone compare himself to Einstein. I was impressed by his cockiness, but not convinced. So I guess this is the Avatar negging the, or like peacocking.
Negging the straw man. Or peacocking the straw man.
He's peacocking for the delivery boy. You haven't explained orbits. Under your theory, how can a moon orbit a planet and not be sucked into it? Your god dust would pop into existence closer to the planet each time it appeared until it crashed into the surface. This makes no more sense to me than it does to you. You are ready for the second law of gravity, which is the probability that things will continue moving in a straight line. And this somehow explains, I don't know, anything.
The moon
but it's like,
literally,
but it's so great.
It literally has to pop in and out of existence for that theory to make any sense at
It's
all.
called quantum leaps.
It's called quantum leaps.
You've heard, and the argument that this is an accurate description is the following. You've heard the phrase, right?
Yes.
You don't know what it means, do you?
I've also heard the phrase Columbo, but I'm pretty sure he's not a real person.
Yeah.
I have one genuine high point.
Okay.
I agreed with one idea in this book with a big caveat. Which is...
Women be shopping. All right, sorry. Someone had to do it. I apologize.
We do.
Wait,
we love
is-
shopping. I have a pink pop filter on my microphone right now.
To be fair, I bought those, and we have like several. So I'm the colorblind guy who just likes pink a lot. So yeah, whatever.
The idea is if people believed in God, they would live differently. Like if people who say they believe in God actually believed in God, they would behave differently.
I do agree with that.
But he takes it to such an extreme that
Yes.
it was impossible for me to agree with it.
I would just say that, like, I would only apply that to, like, Christianity. I mean, I'm sure it works in other religions, too. But, I mean, like, specifically there are, like, all these teachings in Christianity that most Christians do not follow, you know? And I'm always, like, I mean, especially in the current political atmosphere, it's like, so you think Jesus is literally God. You think God came down to earth and died for you. And you won't give money to the poor.
Right.
You know, like you think
And he does make that point, and unfortunately it's solely so that he can follow it up with some smug, I guess God doesn't exist kind of shit. But
Yes.
like I agree with you. Up until that point, he is actually making a valid point. I was like, hey, this is pretty good. And then unfortunately he Scott Adams it, and it fucking rolls right into the gutter at the last minute.
Yeah. I agreed with one point in this book as well, which is very early, where you're getting a little insight into the deliveryman's code, which is that sometimes if they think it'll make an old person's life easier, they'll just like sign for them. Because they know that old people have trouble holding pens sometimes.
That did seem nice.
As a former pizza delivery man, I can say I had several invalid customers who would order and specifically ask if I could just open the door for them and leave the pizza inside. And most of the time it was cool, but then sometimes they'd want you to bring it to their table and talk to you, and then they got really mean.
no.
There was a guy named Mr. Schneider. He used to yell at me a lot. Anyway,
remember
these are
him.
bad memories.
He's the guy who rolled his cigarettes into his sleeve and was always hanging around that single mom.
He literally, the first time I went there, said, "You need to come in. I'm a goddamn invalid." So,
Then did he ask you, what happens if you flip a coin?
Yeah. Why don't you take your shirt off? I'm taking my shirt off. It's cool. All right. Anyway.
On that, maybe it's time to take a break.
Yep. I think that's a good
Time to
idea.
cool down a little.
Know it all, know it all. Did you really listen to that song? Did you ever write what you call wrong? I remember you and I listened to bands that we like. Only the songs matter to you.
All right, we're back, and much like Steve Harvey, Scott Adams has a lot of advice towards the end of this book about how to get along with the opposite sex. So,
It's great. The last 30 pages are about how to live, and they start off sort of connected to the concept of probability, and then they just go completely separate from that, but they're presented as if they are part of the fabric of the universe as much as like quantum strings are.
Which, to be fair, was extremely probable given the way this book appears to have been written.
Oh, shit.
yeah.
And so in particular, he talks about dating, and he explains what men and women want from relationships. And I really like it because it's not even like a stereotype. It's just like nonsense. Like it doesn't even get to the level of like a harmful stereotype. It's just totally weird.
He has a Saved by the Bell-esque portrayal of gender, I feel like, where like every woman is kind of like a 15-year-old on like a TV show for kids that is really into gossip and shopping. And it's pretty horrible to read.
So what women want, this is a direct quote, women believe value is created by sacrifice.
Oh boy.
If you are willing to give up your favorite activities to be with her, she will trust you.
Whoa.
If being with her is too easy for you, she will not trust you.
This is
And then he says that's why rich guys get women. It's not because like they can buy you stuff. It's because they can sacrifice more. So a normal guy might just be giving up an afternoon watching TV to spend time with you. Mm-hmm. But a rich guy could be giving up a week in Tahiti to spend time with you.
Nothing says great relationship more than seething resentment.
Men, on the other hand, believe value is created by accomplishment, and they have objectives for the women in their lives. If a woman meets the objectives, he assumes she loves him.
Bleep, bloop, 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 level up.
If she fails to meet the objectives, he will assume she does not love him. Then our little...
Actually, I'm sorry, can you keep reading that? Because that is by far my favorite. The thing that follows that is by far my favorite. Because, this is plausible, but... Why have I never heard my male friends sitting around talking about the objectives they wish their girlfriends would reach?
The mailman then asks, "Why? So what objectives?" And the fifth level avatar man says the objectives are different for each man, and they don't share them because doing so is a recipe for disaster, and that's all you learn. So
it's like you can actually see his hands waving.
I honestly have no idea. Like if this said, women want to be, protected and like men want to protect, I would at least like understand where that was coming from. But this is just so weird. It's like men want women to achieve objectives. Which objectives? Not going to tell you. Yeah. I don't even have a stereotypical basis to try and figure out what the objectives might be.
So sorry, close your ears. Okay. So earmuffs. I'm just going to share this with the audience. The objective is Roadhead.
No, okay. So if we're going to be more...
What'd you say? I didn't hear.
You'll have to listen.
Who knows? People at home. Maybe I edited that out in post, too. I just think that this is an example of a dude who considers himself to have an engineering mind, which is interesting because as far as I know, I don't know if Scott Adams was ever involved in engineering, or was he?
Yeah.
He was. And it's the idea of wanting to apply a very rigid rule set to the way human beings interact, which will always fail because human beings are not computer programs. And I think that's kind of him.
They're gloppy, they're organic, they're gross.
Well, as you said, you could hear his hands waving at the end because that's him coming to the terms with the fact that you just can't return a Boolean value that's true or false that defines a human relationship.
He hasn't even picked ones that are like true in a large percentage of cases. They're just random. Like I literally don't understand what objectives a man would want a woman to reach.
It is. I mean, it's a really good point. It seems very, very arbitrary, very, very specific to Scott Adams, and something that he's universalizing in a way that's very strange. Like
and this sacrifice thing, like I don't even understand. Like I don't get it.
That feels to me like very much kind of an extension of the nice guy kind of
MRA bullshit.
Yeah, the bullshit of like, like, oh well, like what. An idealized version of what women really want is someone who's willing to like lay down their life for them, and I am a man who will fight for your honor, and all this kind of shit.
Well, no, and it's worse than that even, because it's an assumption that like, what does a woman fundamentally want from a man?
And she wants him to be unhappy.
She wants to take.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Right?
I guess that's kind of the resentment thing I said earlier.
Yeah.
Is like his picture is like women want men to give things up that they enjoy to be with them. I don't think that's true.
I've never come across that concept before.
I don't think any human being is like, I care about you so much, I want you to be miserable with me.
I'm sure, like, I can think of examples of people of both genders being like, I don't know, oh, like,
Dicks?
yeah, like, you should come to my birthday party even though you have work or whatever. Like,
Yeah, those are small
but
things.
it's so, like, I've just never even encountered the concept of that being, like, a fundamental part of a romantic relationship.
Well, I think it's worth noting Scott Adams is an incredibly rich man who's been divorced like 5 times now.
That's what I was going to look at. I was
Well, then
going to
he's
look
really
at
qualified to talk about how God and probability ordain that bitches be shopping.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he has a pretty rocky history in the romance world, if I remember correctly. So
He also thinks like men will all be chemically castrated soon because women are taking over society.
Oh yeah, he's all about that like red pill bullshit.
He has a whole blog post about chemical castration.
And he will, if he hears this podcast, send us a torso picture inviting us to reply.
Oh, a torso picture? Is that like a torso of a woman that he's
No,
dismembered?
he will shirtlessly.
He has abs.
He
wants
abs.
you to know he has abs.
visible abs.
He will shirtlessly.
He has visible abs
argue.
despite being what is it? I think 60 on the nose.
Yeah. I mean, he's in
So good for him.
he's in good shape, but I could still take him. Anyway, since we've been talking about this,
I mean, I have visible abs because I've just been coughing for 2 weeks. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything.
but moving on, let's do some games, and we're going to start out here with something we don't do that much, but I feel like we're rolling nicely into it. So here is Most Famous Fan.
They're rich and they're famous, but they read books too. They're rich and they're famous, but they're only a little better than you.
So, Most Famous Fan, we try to figure out who the most well-known or notorious person who's into this book would be, and I just want to say right off the bat, we are going to avoid the obvious fucking Richard
internet
Spencer,
bullshit.
Milo, internet fucking bullshit,
Yeah.
and we're going to try to stick to shit that might actually be entertaining to listen to instead of infuriating. So,
Unlike this book.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of like, somebody who is kind of out there. They're interested in like big ideas. They're not quite sure. In this moment, do I intuit or do I counterintuit?
Ooh.
I stole that line, but it's fine. So I'm going to guess that the biggest fan of this, you know him, you love him. His dad's famous and weirder than you think. The one, the only, Jaden Smith.
Oh, yes. That's a really good one.
Well, I mean, I kind of mentioned earlier, but there are a lot of ideas of this book that run parallel to Scientology, whether that's intentional or not. So,
And Jaden's tweets.
yeah,
Exactly. Like it's like Jaden's tweets read like a version of this book, but with some charm.
Yeah.
I've said
Yes.
this before. I will say it again. I know a lot of people like to dunk on Jaden Smith. I am here for the pretentious teenager.
Absolutely.
No, I am too, and I also think it's amazing that his parents are just like fucking letting him be a weirdo in
Yes.
public, and he's finding his identity, and that's cool. I got nothing against it, but you're right.
And he's older than 14 now, so he's allowed to read this book.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
yeah. You're
Good
right.
point.
You're right. He could
Yeah.
twist his noodle.
Yeah,
He
he's
could twist
ready.
it.
He's ready to have his noodle twisted.
Yeah.
I hope he's over 18.
He could have his brain rattled around in his skull. And every time I hear that, I hear just some kind of like, like bad new metal riff start to chug.
Yeah, I hear that, or I just think about like CTE and the dangers of contact sports. But anyway, do you have? Oh, okay, yeah, I'll go next. For me, I had to think about this a lot, and I was like, who is a person that really like probably buys into this? And I've decided that it is Jackson Galaxy, the Cat Man. Just based on his facial hair alone, I feel like he has some very interesting concepts about the world. He firmly believes you can communicate with cats on a human level, so I feel like he's not too far removed from the Scott Adams view of the world.
What do you think Scott Adams thinks about cats?
I bet he's a dog guy, but I bet he has like...
Oh, because cats are like too feminine.
Cats are too feminine, but I bet he has dogs that other people take care of, and he just goes to like kind of visit like once a week.
I'm sure he's allergic to all affectionate mammals.
You know what? I bet he has fish, because you can control their entire lives.
I think my famous fan is going to be Adam Scott.
Ooh. That's
Because
an odd choice.
Oh, I've been reading a lot of his things on the internet.
because he has the same name as Scott Adams, but he's better. So
Yeah.
Right.
it must be kind of nice to be like,
Oh, see, I thought you were going for it because Scott Adams is notorious for going on the internet under fake names and defending himself and promoting his own theories.
No,
you're talking about a sock puppet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like my conspiracy theory that Eric Garland is Merrick Garland's alt account, but he just couldn't think of a good name.
No, you're talking about Hollywood treasure Adam Scott.
Yes,
who,
I'm talking about Party Down, Parks and Rec, Adam Scott.
Skinny face, seems punchable.
Yeah.
Girls seem to like him for some reason.
Yeah,
He's hilarious.
Well, once you
Anyway.
get used to his face, I feel
I'm
like
not
it's really
saying
good
he's not. I'm
looking.
not saying he's not hilarious. I'm talking about the figure he cuts.
Oh, that's true,
Right,
yeah.
because he's one of those people
There's a
who's,
punchability.
who's hilarious in a largely dislikable way.
I say this is an incredibly punchable human being, so I totally agree.
I'm punching Jay right now.
But I do. Now I get it. Yeah, that would be a good ego boost. It
Yeah,
would be
it'd
like
good if like you had the same name as someone else and you were definitely 100% the better one.
if there were a Fred Jamin out there right now that sucked a lot, I'd be pretty stoked.
There probably is.
Yeah.
Hold on, we're gonna pause the podcast and do some quick googling or whatever that gross site is that's at the bottom of every article I read. That's like
The chum bucket.
look
the
up
ad
this.
chum bucket.
Look up this person. It's better than Google.
15 celebrities who had horrible facial surgery.
Insect eggs are in your eyes.
Yeah, totally. And that's journalism, folks.
Eep. So those I think are all. I think those are three extremely plausible famous fans. Let's talk about some not famous fans because I got the ebook version of this, and I just want to walk you through really quickly what got highlighted the most.
I'm so excited.
The most common highlight, and this is not going to be a surprise, is
This is not a Dilbert book. It is not humor.
That was probably right up there.
for some reason nobody highlighted anything from the introduction, which is
I wonder why.
Fucking tragedy.
Probably because they could just
baffling.
like call their parents and like say like something very disappointing and get a very similar lecture.
Yeah.
Like call your mom and dad and be like, I'm addicted to meth, and you could probably get the same response. So
Yeah.
yeah.
The first, the most popular highlight, but I think is most popular for an artifactual reason, is the thing that we were talking about earlier, where he's like very smugly, if you truly, it is not belief to say God exists and then continue sinning and hoarding your wealth while innocent people die of starvation. Which again, as a point, okay, it's a fair point, but like the smugness with which it's uttered.
And then the
is
conclusions
off-putting.
he goes on to draw from that.
And do
are-
you need
Yeah.
to make it sound like lyrics from a Dragon Force song?
I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, so yeah.
I mean, there's definitely room in there for a guitar solo, but I think that honestly has the highest, just because it's quite early in the book. That's not even 30 pages in.
Yeah.
I've never seen a popular highlight late that had the numbers that you always get early. About the second most is writing your goals every day gives you a higher level of focus. It tunes your mind to better recognize opportunities in your environment.
Oh yeah, so gravity and light aren't real, but affirmations and ESP kinda are.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding,
And
ding, ding,
you know who keeps a bullet journal? This motherfucker right here. Anyway.
I have a modified bullet journal
Yeah.
system.
No, I mean, it works. I'm not arguing.
I shoot bullets into my journal when I don't like what I've written.
Holy shit, that's tough.
That's very like Ginsburg of you know.
Burroughs.
Burroughs, you're
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
Burroughs.
yeah, wrong guy.
But the fundamental like reader of this book is actually a success weenie.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yes.
They're an angry skeptic because the third most popular is like about skepticism and how it's like almost too powerful
Yes,
for the human
yes.
mind.
There is some straight up like Professor X visioning going on here, where there's totally like once you can harness the power of your own mind, you'll see you'll evolve beyond what humanity can currently achieve.
Wow.
Thanks, Dilbert Guy.
Yeah. So yeah, whoever wants to, it's like an engineer who really thinks they've cracked marketing.
Yep.
Yes.
Let's move on here to some of our reading focused events, and let's start out with the most popular segment in polemic history, dramatic reading.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound important. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
So, dramatic readings, we're going to read parts of Scott Adams' opinions and try to make them sound important, which is really hard because he's a facile dipshit. Right? Who wants to go first? I have to go last.
All right.
I
I can go first. This is Scott Adams on the mystery of light. When we feel the warmth of sunlight, we are feeling the effect of increased probabilities and, therefore, increased activity of our skin cells, not the effect of photons striking our skin. Photons have no mass, the scientists tell us. That is another way to say they do not exist, except as a concept. Light can be thought of as zones of probability that surround all things. A star, by virtue of its density, has high probability that two of its god dust particles will pop into existence in the same location, forcing one of them to adjust, creating a new and frantic probability. That activity, the constant adjusting of location and probability, is what we perceive as energy.
I'd like to remind everyone that when I picked this book out, I was told it was fiction. And I'm sorry to both of you.
Trying to race light is like trying to run away from your own thoughts. Motherfucker, I've been successfully running away from my own thoughts since I was 13 years old.
Let me tell you, I could drink 18 beers, but I won't be able to escape light.
Exactly.
So there are a few pages of fiction in the book, and they're really amazing. They're just beyond.
Are they extra? I keep hearing the kids say it, and I don't know what it means, but I'd like to.
They're doing the most.
They
And
stay 100.
Here's the very last.
As Dilbert would say,
The very
sometimes
last page.
it do be like that, though.
This is when our mailman boy has become a fifth avatar man. He's waiting for the next delivery guy to become the next avatar. And the new delivery guy says, "I love that rocking chair. How old is that thing? It looks like an antique." "I got it 1 year before the religion war," I said. "I'm glad that war ended before I was born," the young man sighed. "I can't imagine what it was like to be alive then." "You're lucky to have missed it." "Were you in that war?" "Everyone was in that war." "Let me ask you something," he said. "Why do you think the war ended? We learned in school that everyone just stopped fighting and no one knows why. Although there are all kinds of theories about secret pacts among world leaders, no one really knows. You were there. Why do you think everyone suddenly stopped fighting?"
Dilbert.
"If you flip a coin," I said, "how often does it come up heads?"
Oh, shit. And it's literally the end of Inception.
Yeah.
The mailman's tie flips up. Nothing is ever the same.
How can you rip off the end of 2001 and do it so badly?
Okay, I'm going to do my dramatic. I'm going to do my dramatic reading here. This is straight from the pages of God's Debris by Scott Adams. Need to affect the appropriate voice, so I got to scoot back from the microphone a little bit. Children will be blessed for killing of educated adults who ignore 4 simultaneous days, same Earth rotation. Practicing evil oneness upon Earth of quadrants, evil adult crime versus youth, supports lie of integration. 1 educated are most dumb, not 1 human except dead one. Man is paired, 2 half, 4 self. 1 of God is only 1/4 of God. Bible a lie and word is lies. Navel connects 4 corner 4s. God is born of a mother, she left belly B signature. Your dirty lying teachers use only the midnight to midnight one day, ignoring 3 other days. Time not to foul, Bible time. Lie that corrupts Earth, you educated stupid fools.
Dilute, okay.
So that was actually Gene Ray's Time Cube, but not much different from what we just read. So that was my dramatic reading.
What did it say? Time to foul Bible time?
Yeah,
I need to rename my podcast.
time to foul Bible time. It's also going to be the name of my next improv troupe.
I will say that right before the section you read, there's a pretty good description of either a mild acid trip or a mild manic episode.
Oh, yes.
Where he's driving home
never taken acid.
and like encountering the one mind, right?
Yes.
He's never taken acid because if he did, he'd at least have the self-awareness to realize that these are the first thoughts everybody has when they take acid.
I don't know. It's like the first time you take acid, you're an insufferable prick. And then when you talk to 3 other people, you realize, oh, shit.
Maybe he didn't talk to the other people. I mean, there is like...
Oh, that's a good point.
There is a whole thing about how when you talk to people, you can like kind of trick them so that you're really talking about yourself, but they think that you're talking about them.
It's probably a good point for us here to take a break, I think. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we'll be back to recommend some stuff that has nothing to do with Dilbert.
Jesus.
I woke up this morning, put on my Sunday shoes. I don't ask me why, it's just the nature of my grooves. I launched down.
Hey, we're back. We're done. We're done talking about this fucking piece of Dilbert philosophy, which I had mentioned earlier off mic, forgot to mention off on air. There are points in this where he literally applies classical game theory to philosophy. So yeah, don't read this. It's written by an idiot. But normally we do recommendations here, but I think we're going to start off this time with a little interactivity and some letters.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter F, letter G, letter, got a lot of letters.
Sorry, I was just trying to dance to thinking about the letter song. So this letter is from Matt, fake last name, and it goes, Scott Adams recommendation. Oh my God, listening as I shop in Target and just got to the Scott Adams part. Please talk about God's debris. I loved it when I was doing mushrooms in high school, and it's so bad. It's short as hell, too. All right, not only do we do that, so you should send us a ham. We brought a special guest on to do it. And I just want to say before we move on that speaking of shopping at Target, there was a very, very funny thing this week on the internet about shopping at Target that I recommend you read. And I'll probably put that in the show notes too.
Yeah, and send us a ham, or send me a ham.
Yeah.
But the other 2 people on the show right now, not meat eaters, so, you know, think of something better.
I don't want a ham to eat. I just want to have a ham.
Just want to hold it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like when you work at the factory and then your Christmas bonus is a turkey, and you're like, motherfuckers. No
That happens
landlords,
to me.
no managers.
Happens to me all the time.
It's just my life over here, working in the code mines. Wow,
Anywho.
I'm horrible. It's okay to hate me, folks. I'm part of the worst industry on the planet. But also, I do a podcast you listen to.
Wait, you make munitions?
Okay, could be worse. Weaponized apps for the youth. But yeah, so
Bullet journals.
put a bullet in that journal, motherfucker. Let's roll on here to some recommendations.
Yes. Speaking of doing mushrooms and God's debris, I think Lauren had a kind of on-point recommendation.
I want to recommend a book called Finding God in the Waves by McHargue. He does a podcast called Ask Science Mike. And he was raised a really devout Southern Baptist and had a crisis of faith in kind of middle age, and then came back to his faith by thinking about God more metaphorically. And so it's kind of like the opposite of this book, where he thinks about God metaphorically, but in an actually interesting way. And also science is real. He talks about science that exists and,
Instead of
doesn't
science.
say that evolution should lead to two-headed humans ruling over one-headed humans.
Therefore, evolution, not so much.
Yeah.
Therefore, evolution, not so
Checkmate,
much.
Darwin.
I've got a new version of it. I like to call it Dilberution, and it's very important that you listen to my thoughts. No, that sounds like a much better exploration of these themes than what we
it
just
is.
subjected
It's
ourselves to.
like everything bad about this book transformed into something good.
I'll go ahead and go next. I'm not going to recommend a book or anything else. I'm going to recommend a thing that you should check out. Friend of the show, Paul, fake last name, sent me, by the way, today's my birthday. Whoa.
Happy
Happy
birthday!
birthday, Jack!
23 years old. I never thought it would happen.
You're the perfect age for this book.
I am. But for my birthday, listener and friend of the show, Paul, sent a really, really cool key ring of the show's logo of the devil horns that he made because he works with fucking metal, and he's a metal worker that does custom jewelry and metalwork for the Leaky Crucible Foundry. So check them out at leakycrucible.com because they rule, and people that work there are really cool and send me awesome presents. So yeah, give that a visit.
Yeah, I also work with metal, by which I mean I put bad heavy metal on in the background while I do whatever it is I do for a living. So yeah, my recommendation, I'm going to be very, very lazy. I looked at my list. I have not finished anything worth mentioning since The Handmaid's Tale, which presumably you already know about, and I think I've already recommended it anyway. So I am actually just going to recommend the funniest thing I happened to read randomly on the internet this week, which is that thing about Target and going to Target. It stands on its own, but it's also a very good parody of really, really pointless tech speak. So it stands up as a literary form or an experiment on literary form.
Do you
on
have
its
it?
own, and I'm going to link to it.
Okay, I was just going to say, do you have any more info about how people
Yeah, no,
would find
I'll put it in the
or-
show notes. It's called, I believe it's called So What's Happening With Me.
Okay, because yeah, I figure if you Google shopping at Target, you're probably not going to get the results that you were just describing.
Yeah. So
Oh.
I'm sorry, you're going to have to click something in your app, and you're going to find a link, and you're going to have to click on that too. You'll get over it.
I'm going to do just real quick, just an anti-recommendation, because I don't want to dedicate a whole show to this, but like 4 or 5 people have recommended this book called Horror Store to me. Don't read the book Horror Store. It's very bad. Okay, that's it. So moving on from that, I guess the idea was to end on a positive note, but I fucked it up. So, yeah, why not check out the new album by A Winged Victory for Sullen? It's really good too. A Winged Victory for the Sullen. It's very good.
That is the worst and best band's names simultaneously.
It's a Stars of the Lid side project. It's everything you think it would be. It's very depressing ambient drone, but man, it's a great record. So yeah, check that out. That's positive, right? Hey,
I love depressing ambient drone. That's when I think positivity, I think ambient drone music.
well, I have an anxiety disorder. Okay, so anyway, moving on past that, Lauren, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
It's
so
been
much
a
for having
pleasure.
me.
I'm sorry again that you had to read this.
That's okay.
Is there anything?
We hope this has not like shattered your ability to take the Bible seriously with its searing insights and incontrovertible logics.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a struggle from here because I'm gonna be reading it and I'm gonna be like, but like probabilistically speaking,
Right.
Yeah,
why is the moon?
got to do the math.
Answer me that, Mr. Saint Paul.
Is there anything you want to plug or just let
Just
people know?
Podcast Sunday School Dropouts. You can follow me on Twitter at Lauren E. O'Neill. O'Neill spelled like Shaquille spells it.
Gotcha. That's important to know. Are you going to be running for sheriff of Florida soon too? Or Orlando? Yeah, no, he's running for sheriff of Orlando. Sorry.
I'm going to be running for sheriff of Florida. The whole thing.
Okay, well, you'll probably win because I think you're more qualified. So.
I'm going to be honest. I would watch 8 episodes of some random Amazon Prime series about the sheriff of Florida, who just like drives around.
Starring me and my Uncle Shaq.
It's
a mismatched buddy company.
Goes
buddy
different
comedy.
places, sees like weird, seamy swamp stuff in one episode, seamy beach stuff in another.
Battles some anthropomorphic alligators that strangely have a methamphetamine ring.
I think let's save that for season 2.
You don't want to give it all away at once.
For everyone,
So tune in for Sheriff of Florida.
and for everyone else who's listening who's not already queuing up their Google alerts for that, check us out at IDon'tEvenOwnATelevision.com. We're at IDEOTVPod on Twitter and Facebook. Email us at Gmail. Same deal. IDon'tEvenOwnATelevision at Gmail.
And perhaps most importantly, this episode, like every episode, is brought to us by our friends on Patreon, patreon.com/IDEOTVPod. We can't thank you enough. Your help and your attention really make the show possible.
I just invented a phrase to describe what our Patreon supporters do. They're priming the pump.
Holy shit, that's genius. I've never heard such a thing. I don't
Only
even know what a
a
pump
really
is.
intelligent person could come up with something like that.
I'm very smart. We'll see you guys next time around. And until then,
Keep pumping the prime.
and ride the crap.
We gon' blow your mind.